This is an historic week of energy policy action. The announcement of the largest oil reserve release ever isn't moving the needle. Well, it's moving the needle in the wrong direction. Crude oil is up again today. This is your West Texas Intermediate at almost $95 a barrel. Brent at 99 and change. The market, investors sending a clear message. Reserves aren't the problem. Mobility is. That Strait of Hormuz, well, it needs to be open. Will it be? Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with my co-hosts, Taylor Riggs, Brian Bremberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this hour, Making Money host Charles Payne.
Right.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
My friend.
Are you guys ever going to have me on the Green Day?
We bring you on to make red days green. That's what we do.
Bremberg read my mind. The United States and its allies preparing to release 400 million barrels of oil from strategic petroleum reserves as part of a coordinated effort led by the International Energy Agency to stabilize prices during the conflict with Iran. That includes 172 million barrels of crude from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve here in the United States. That is America's energy stockpile meant for exactly this moment. The President Trump, saying it is actually going according to plan.
We've knocked out their Navy, their military in all forms. We've knocked out just about everything there is, including their leadership. The market's holding up well. I figured we'd be hit a little bit, but we were hit probably less than I thought, and we'll be back on track in a pretty short while. Prices are coming down very substantially. Oil will be coming down.
One thing is certain, the situation in the Persian Gulf is extremely volatile. Charles, put all of this together. One thing that seemed to kind of push markets higher, and I disagree with the reaction in the markets, is that report from the International Energy Agency this morning slashing its forecast for oil supply growth this year. But also, it kind of reduced it. But it also said the war in the Middle East is creating the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. The IEA has given cover to the climate crusaders and the green goblins pushing an anti-fossil fuel agenda for eons. So why would investors react to what those boneheads have to say?
Yeah, or it's like the Democrats here just can't believe what's happening. Gasoline prices are going up.
Right.
And for the last two administrations, we were told they have to go up so that we can transition to green energy. But all of that aside, what I heard from President Trump is trying to lay out a more realistic timeline. I don't think he spoke enough with respect to how his tariff policy would work and how long it would take to really, truly be able to work, but something like that to reindustrialize a nation. This obviously would be a lot shorter lived, but you got to take control of the narrative in the sense that all of a sudden we're supposed to win a war in 2 days or 2 weeks with a very formidable opponent. Listen, we saw what's happening with the Houthis. We saw, and by the way, that was all probably in preparation for a moment like this, you know, when they were harassing our ships, either with suicide ships or with drones, and they could say, hey, I could shoot up a $25,000 drone and have them use a $5 million missile to shoot it down. Yeah. And so that's the guerrilla warfare aspect of this. It takes longer to weed out. We'll weed it out. And gasoline prices, crude oil, listen, that was one of the big successes of the Trump administration. And that's why it's so funny when they talk about the taco trade, Trump chickens out. He does things that no president would ever dare to do. He disrupts the apple cart in a way that, you know what, he has to go through moments like this. And no president would ever dare do that. And so the problems have all festered and got bigger and bigger and larger over time. And so he takes that heat, which is fine. And day to day, listen, we talk about it for a living, and we have to keep people informed. But if you're just pretty cool about it, and I think we might have learned that lesson last April and May, you know what? You're going to be okay, and we're going to be okay coming out of this. We're not losing. It's and all these other fantasies that some folks have about this. It's a lot more nuanced when you get to the final part of it, which is clearing the Strait of Hormuz.
Can I jump on the back of that?
Yes.
The fear that, Charles, you're talking about, the fear of other American presidents to stay away from this region because they don't want to deal with what we're experiencing right now. But that fear has held our country hostage. It's also held the Iranian people hostage to a brutal regime. I'm looking at this and thinking today, crude oil is up, sure. The market's a little bit lower, yes. But crude oil could be substantially higher than even this. And I'm surprised that we're only seeing the jump that we're seeing on the back of these fresh attacks on tankers in the Gulf. It all comes down to the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked about duration. I agree with you, Charles, that right now plans are going as they're supposed to. Schedules seem to be moving on the timeline that the president and his administration have set out. And so we still need to have trust. But I also think it's partially some of the fear today is this threat of sleeper cells potentially being activated here in the United States. The president answered a question about that. He talked about how the border was wide open. People have wandered over, but that the administration has identified and is watching those people. But that's a very, very scary proposition. And it's something to think about as we have been held hostage in some ways by this regime as well. And as we think about why it is that we're engaging in this fight at this moment, that's because we are potentially, could be threatened here on our own soil. And I think that that's really important. I'm looking at the supreme leader that's been elected, the son of the former Ayatollah. Trey Yingst was on earlier, and he said that all we've seen so far, besides some sort of statement from him, but that was not given in person, is a cardboard cutout. Apparently, he has been injured in some of this conflict. His father obviously killed. His wife's been killed, other family members as well. I just am sort of connecting the dots here and thinking to myself, they're trying to posture as much as they can. Going after the tankers in the Strait is the last act of desperation that they've got left. I fully expect them to, detonate that card. But I think the administration understands what's happening too. That's why the release of the SPR. And I'm guessing that if they go that route, there will be more military conflict. I almost hope they do quicker because that conflict will resolve it quicker. In some ways.
I just want to note the FBI has, this is from John Roberts over on the news channel. The FBI has reiterated that information about possible West Coast drone attacks was unverified. So that should ease concerns. Anybody, jump in.
So let's look at this from the market perspective a little bit. Jackie, I always love your takes on sort of geopolitical and oil, and I want to combine oil then with equity market. And you guys know me, I'm always time in the market. I'm not ever trying to time it. But for people feeling at home, this has been pretty volatile in terms of up one day, down one day, up one day, down. And so I think what's interesting is the S&P 500 has seen intraday swings of at least 1% or more. On half the trading days this year alone. So Charles, some big wigs think that that is concerning when those big swings maybe create volatility or or maybe signs of some nervousness out there. Just want to throw that out. And I did a chart of the day for you. When I think about how much of these equity market moves are fundamental versus technical in nature, my chart of the day shows that this is not it, but we'll get it up there. Its margin debt is at record highs. So any downturn in stocks could risk turning into a sharper correction if you do have leveraged investors out there that are forced to sell. So I just kind of bring up those points because I think we're all sitting around here trying to understand.
Did you use the one from Apollo, that chart?
Yes.
So the chart I would have used, there's a other chart, a different chart I would have used for that. I would have had the debt chart that he had, but also overlay it with the value of the market.
Okay.
So because, this is the most debt we've ever had for the market, but it's also the most right. So it's also the most expensive the market's ever been. So you have to add that in as well. It's not like the market's the same as it was in 2000 and the debt is here. So on that respect, it mitigates the risk a little bit. It mitigates that argument, that fear aspect of it. But obviously, you don't want margin calls to start to cascade.
We have sound from Larry Fink, if you would like to toss to
Throw it up there.
Are you sure? Because he was
I don't even know what he said.
Well, he was on
up
against the bottom line yesterday, so I didn't see it, and neither did Brian.
No,
so do you want to see it?
You should have been on the bottom line.
Throw it up there. Maybe I can weave it into the stew a little bit.
I'm unimpressive. That's what he said about me. Okay, yeah, play it.
I do believe the markets find a way to balance out, and the markets are a great efficient mechanism to talk about that identifies the short-term issues. We've seen many people pulling out of the market, and to me, that's the wrong outcome. In fact, I've been getting so many texts, what should I do? And I said, buy more here, because this is a good long-term opportunity.
Well, I think you're very impressive, number one.
No, that's a true story. I won't go into it. Go ahead.
Number two, I think I might agree with the last part of what he said there. I wasn't exactly sure what he was getting into, but he sees a buying opportunity. Here's kind of the way you guys made me think of something. Did you ever, when you were a kid, did your parents ever say to you, a watch pot never boils?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like observing what's going on in oil markets right now is a watch pot never boils situation. We're looking at this thing. If you're in the market, if you're trading, if you're observing it like us, you're watching it minute by minute by minute, and you're like, when is this going to resolve? When are they going to get the Strait done? And if you watch it that way, it feels like it's forever, okay? When you step back and you ask how many days we've been at this, it's not been many days. So don't get into a watch pot never boils situation. It does boil eventually. Okay, so that links to something both of you said about, you said something like, the Strait of Hormuz is the last piece, okay? It's the last resort. It's the last piece. I think that's so important to understand. I'm reading these oil analysts, these guys observing this, and I hear them say things like, how could Trump go into this without a semblance of a plan for how to secure the Strait of Hormuz? And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound right to me, okay? I don't think the guys at CENTCOM went into this and didn't have any idea what they wanted to do with the Strait of Hormuz. I do think the reality of the situation is the Strait of Hormuz is their last resort, which means everything they have in country, every weapon system, every offensive move they can make, eventually it all feeds to the Strait because it's their last resort. So if you want to secure the Strait, you've got to beat the crap out of everything else they have around it. And you're not going to send ships through the Strait until you know you've done that. So again, here we are watching the pot, wanting it to boil. And I think the guys on the ground are saying, let us do what we set out to do so that when we escort ships through, it's not a 75% chance we're going to get hit. It's a 10% or a 5% or a 1% or whatever is acceptable. But we're in this moment right now where you've got like armchair military guys critiquing the sequencing of events. And I would agree. I think the administration could do a better job of talking to us about that. I won't disagree with that. But they're armchair quarterbacking the sequencing of moves. And I just think that's foolish. And I think if you're watching this, don't get sucked in to just focusing on the pot not boiling right now and listen to these guys who think they can tell you why the Strait of Hormuz isn't secure.
I noticed last night, and it really is all I can do not to respond on social media, that Frank Luntz, the pollster, retweeted some Reuters story from early in the day about, I think it was about the two tankers that were attacked in Iraqi waters. I'm like, that story by now is old. What are these people trying to do in terms of stirring up turmoil in the market?
I will say that the greatest weapons that any adversary of America has, as long as Trump is in office, is the American media. And it's just really unfortunate that they go so far as to feel like they're rooting for the other side, no matter who it might be, or rooting for our demise, or rooting for us to get hurt, never, ever seeing the wisdom of anything that we're trying to achieve, even if other presidents have said and acknowledged that it was a problem in the past, right? It's despicable. It really is. You can't get on any social media without immediately becoming doom scrolling. And to your point, everyone's an armchair expert, and I think to a degree that emboldens in Iran. I'm not sure what Iran's game plan was, but I don't know that. I think it was shaped here in the Strait, in part to the America's media having their back, Lloyd's of London bailing out quickly, because first this was an insurance problem, and then of course as our allies. I don't see a whole lot of other military ships in the area saying, "Okay, we'll help you, help you get through some of this
secure the Strait,
the Strait, even though we need the oil more than you do."
Exactly.
We'll talk about insurance as the show rolls on, but I'll point out that the Department of Transportation has an insurance program that has been in place for almost 100 years. It's maritime insurance that is not being used. And I raised the question of why is that not kind of the mechanism to insure these tankers. As for Larry Fink, I'll leave this parting shot. What did he say? We have seen many people pulling out of the market, and to me, that is the wrong outcome. Well, maybe they're just pulling money out of your firm and taking it elsewhere. Maybe that's your biggest concern.